Hello, IOST community. It is another episode of the IOST podcast. I believe this is episode 9. We're coming live, or kind of live, from New York City. How are we doing, Dimitri and Mike?
Doing great. Just ate some delicious fried chicken from Bonchon Chicken. So nice and full, ready to talk IOST, talk New York City Blockchain Week.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm feeling amazing. I'm in New York City, so I love this city.
Yeah.
Right near Times Square.
Weather's beautiful. Got a little balcony on the hotel room.
Yeah, we've had a good time. We're coming to the end of the week. It is Thursday, so we're recording this on Thursday. We got here on Monday. We went to a couple events, obviously, over the course of the week. We obviously had meetings there, too. So it has been a full week. What has been your favorite part of the week? Either one of you.
All right. Well, many things are great, right? So it's going to be hard to decide.
Okay.
So one of the events that was great that you liked as well was East meets West, which
definitely.
was last night. That was amazing. It was basically kind of bridging the gap, between Asia and US. And we talked a lot about what's going on over there and some misconceptions that we have in US about certain regulations and bans and so on. It was interesting to hear their explanations of things are the legislation is not there. The laws are not in place to ban cryptocurrency yet, but they're just kind of forming a guideline right now. And also, of course, I brought up the subject of informational arbitrage with some of the people there, and they were like, "Yeah, we know things are happening like that, but hopefully, things will correct."
So when you say informational arbitrage, what do you mean?
So when I say that, what I mean is that some news will come out in Asia first. And then, I guess by the time it's translated or published on U.S. media, it's like a day later. So, when that happens in traditional finance, that's a big no-no, because when you do public release that actually has to do, with prices, pumping or dumping, then basically Asia has information first before.
And they're able to trade on that information before we get it. And
Right.
that's also compounded by crypto being 24-hour trading, too, because a lot of times, the market might be closed while information is happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't hear that you guys were talking about that but on that, during that event. But yeah, that's... I'm sure it's happening with IOST to some degree. It
does, and they're having complaints. But that was more in the nascent times of when the protocol was first starting. I think the team has gotten better with releasing information at the right times to the entire community as a whole, especially as we grow into a huge protocol. Like, imagine if Ethereum news dropped in Asia, like some hardcore Ethereum hitting news, hit in Asia, and then waited 8 hours to be translated to something in English. So that's huge.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thus far has been a event that we went to for a company called Bitsian, Bitsian, Bitsian. Basically, they're developing a front-end software for trading that brings in liquidity from multiple exchanges and allows you to trade on trading pairs that don't necessarily exist on one single exchange, right? So some really cool things that they're doing there. We've been, kind of working with them behind the scenes a little bit. And they had a great event, patio, beautiful night. They had some Prosecco brand there from Italy, where the people who make the Prosecco actually came to the event and were serving it. It was delicious. So yeah, that was a good event. And from what I heard about Consensus, I don't know about you guys, what you heard, but I heard it was significantly better this year than last year.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the ICO projects not being there, getting shilled by an ICO project to raise funds for their whatever decentralized marketplace they're doing at the time.
Right. Yeah, I saw a tweet today that said, I think it was from Max Kordek, the founder and CEO of Lisk, and he said last year at Consensus, every other person was a crypto investor.
Yeah.
And they wanted to invest in Lisk or these various projects. And he said, thus far this week, he hasn't been approached by any crypto investors. So,
nice.
It's interesting. Yeah. I've asked a couple people outside of Consensus about it, and they said that it wasn't as crowded this year as the year before, obviously, which was a good thing because it was insane last year. You can really move around. You can really like sit down and talk to somebody. But this year was better.
My favorite part of being in New York City has been dealing with the Uber drivers that don't know where you want to get dropped off and take you to Lower Manhattan when you're trying to, just be in, Midtown. So those are my favorite parts of New York up to this point. I did enjoy that East Meets West. That was in Tribeca. They had a lot of so the first presenter was a guy talking about South Korean regulation as it relates to ICOs, and that was a pretty good, although it was very lengthy and very in depth. It looks like we were in it was like a 30-minute class almost on regulation in Korea. We met the guys at Dapper, who are the guys behind CryptoKitties, and they actually launched a dApp that night, or they kind of released it. It's called Cheese Wizards, so it's like their next. I think it's more interactive than the NFT collectible that they're doing via CryptoKitties. But that guy at Dapper, we sat down with him and we talked with him for 15 minutes. It was really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Nice. It for sure.
Great people there. There was some capital groups there as well, which was interesting. We approached them, we talked to them. I can't name the name obviously of the capital group, but I brought up IOST and they said, we actually know IOST. We recently, discovered it and it looks really good. I really want to, kind of jump into it. So that was very refreshing.
Yeah, always positive.
Yeah, we're 8 minutes into the intro, so I really want to get to the rest of the topics. But going off what Dimitri just said, what has your feeling been about people's knowledge of IOST and just IOST at consensus?
Yeah, I would say here with some of the meetings that we've taken with some prominent folks, getting a lot of eyebrows going up, right? Yeah. When we talk about being a block producer on IOST and talking about IOST, I think while it's still under the radar broadly, I think a lot of the big players in the space here in the U.S., specifically in New York, are starting to at least hear about it, and like you said, Dimitri, kind of have done a deeper dive and go, holy hell, how did I not hear about this earlier kind of deal. So that's been good, real positive to see that and hear that from them when you bring it up and they don't go, I feel like I might have heard about it versus, oh yeah, we know them.
Nice. All right, so we'll get to the rest of the episode. Obviously, again, we're here in New York City, so we'll be talking a little bit about what we've been doing and people we've been meeting. Although we kind of covered that right now, we're going to talk about Block Venture Coalition's growth. They just recently added 2 members. Is that for sure?
Yeah. Two members now. So one person in Boston, another person coming out from Kansas. So Matt and Mike, awesome to see continued growth from those guys. I know they're deprived of sleep this week and generally most weeks. Some hustlers. So congrats to those guys. For those who didn't hear, they've officially come on board with Sutler as a partner and have some really strong relationships with universities across the country. Really across North America, and are out there pushing the message of IOST.
Yeah, those guys have been grinders, man, because they were at one point the head of their blockchain clubs at their respective universities. So Kansas and Boston College, I believe. So them, being the head of their blockchain group, they know a lot about how we can get IOST and get just projects in general, blockchain projects in general, into the universities.
Yeah, 100%. It's that reach is so key.
Yeah, we went out to some Korean barbecue with them last night. That was good times.
The short ribs, man. We're not starving in New York City, that's for sure. We're gonna need some greens and water by the time we get back, I think.
These are the 2 guys you want to go with to New York City. I didn't know New York City before I came with these 2 guys. But the last bit of news, we do have that partnership that we talked about on the weekly update last week. We actually are now working with dApp.com to release our dApp tier rankings. So that'll be posted on dApp.com coming up here shortly. We talked with the 2 founders, Kyle and June, so that I'm glad we could get that done. It's always about pushing dApps on this ecosystem to the rest of the world, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out dApp.com. They're really high tier and super professional when it comes to this stuff. Have been at the top of that list when it comes to dApps for some time. So excited to really bring IOST in a different way to their platform.
Cool.
Sure. Oh, okay. Nice.
What was
All right, so something that Dimitri's probably going to want to talk more about is the pump that we've seen over the past, 2 weeks? Some people are calling it consensus pump. Don't call it a consensus pump is what I'm hearing as well. So this has been the last 2 weeks that we've essentially come out of crypto winter. So I want to know what you guys have to say on the micro and as well as the macro that's going on here in this market.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of coming up on the price before consensus. And if you take a look at it historically, actually, I saw a tweet on that. Somebody put together kind of the prices of BTC and ETH prior to consensus, in 2017, 2018, and then after consensus to see like the reaction. So 2018, last year, obviously, that was a downward pretty much spiral.
Consensus dump.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, hashtag.
And it wasn't even coming up before consensus. The prices were kind of stagnant. I guess the market was looking for major announcements, and news that would actually revive this market, but instead actually we went down. But 2017 is actually, it looks a lot like 2019 because in 2017 we were actually coming up on the price before consensus, and then we went up even a little bit higher after consensus, and then probably like a week or a week and a half after, that's when we had that correction. So a lot of people are like wondering, when is that correction going to come? Because obviously things are moving quickly, and you don't want to be that guy who buys at the top. So be very cautious, not an investment advice.
Not investment advice.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. So, but that eventually is going to come. But again, it seems like it's around consensus because there are a lot of news and partnerships that are coming out, announcements where crypto has become more available everywhere else.
Yeah, that was the big thing really on Monday. Monday seemed to be the kind of day for announcements, right? We saw Whole Foods and a whole kind of conglomerate of stores or brands now accepting Bitcoin, which for the hype of Bitcoin, right, and the kind of exposure of this new bull market here starting, or at least kind of getting back to a point where it could start. I think it's really good for that. Some of the points that have been brought up on Twitter and certainly that we've talked about and kind of talked with others this week is that if Bitcoin's pumping and you're in Whole Foods and you are buying some food, you're not gonna really exchange an appreciating asset for something that you're gonna cook and eat and it'd be gone with, right? So it's I guess my point is, right, kind of fundamentally I don't think it will have a significant impact on the price of Bitcoin for any reason of just exchanging it back and forth, except for the fact that everybody who goes into Whole Foods now, right, in the same way that when Amazon bought them, it was, you have Amazon Prime, right? 10% off, whatever, you're getting discounts. I would imagine there will be some sort of push there, or at least some sort of signage or new POS system from the Flexa guys who are making this happen. So that's good. It's good awareness. It's great to see that out there. Kind of reminding people that hey, this stuff's still around. It isn't dead.
But also the big one that happened was the Microsoft, doing digital identity, decentralized digital identity on Bitcoin. So you can see, Bitcoin has been dominating basically, the what we had in terms of price volatility going up lately, and the dominance has been going up. But now we're actually seeing the rotation in terms of dominance from Bitcoin into alts, which is usually typically what you see when dominance for BTC goes up and alts drop, then the reversal happens because people obviously rotate from Bitcoin into alts.
Yep. 20% on Bitcoin's nice. Let me just go and grab 80%
it's like a
on
trickle
alts.
down effect there.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good way to put it.
I really haven't. It hasn't made its way down to the micro cap alts. That's kind of where I was trading, which was on Nudex, where I'll essentially market caps of like maybe 5 to 10 million. Tokens are being traded, so it hasn't made its way down there, at least to the bags that I'm holding. So I'm still waiting for that trickle down. I do think that Bitcoin could be used for a point of sale in third world countries where they keep all of their funds in something like Bitcoin, where they would be able to buy, things to eat and things that they need to live, without having to be in their domestic currency. I think over here it's not a thing that we should be doing. If you have cash, there's no reason you should be spending Bitcoin on a Starbucks, yeah?
Right.
But I think it does help around the world, and that's where you see a lot of Bitcoin use cases.
It's fascinating to think about how their native currency is more volatile than Bitcoin. Is that crazy?
That's a good point.
It's wild. Yeah, you can't. It's hard to, I would imagine, carry around trash bags full of cash just to go grocery shopping. So if you can do it in Bitcoin, that probably saves some time and some heartache.
Yeah, one of the things that was in that East meets West, it's almost as we've met more Asian people within the cryptocurrency community, we've learned more about what's going on over there. And the thing that's most interesting to me, and they talked about it in a couple of the presentations, was everyone is on their mobile phone. If it's not even in Hong Kong and Beijing, it's in rural China, where they're making transactions, and 60-year-old grandmothers are holding out their phone and making that transaction on something like WeChat.
Wow,
that's been most fascinating to me, because that is the entirely opposite of over here. Explain Bitcoin to your grandmother and good luck, dude. You'll be there for like 2 hours.
Yeah. It's not needed, I guess, right? Or at least kind of the prerequisites of, in this case, the hardware, the smartphone, aren't there, right? Because the older generations here, a lot of them have smartphones, but they don't really use them in the same way that like a younger generation does.
Yeah.
And it sounds like from those discussions that's just not the case there. It's just that everybody across the board, has kind of gone ahead and basically say, okay, like this is the new hardware. This is what we use now, versus just it kind of being generational. But yeah, there was one interesting thing that I heard. Might have been from one of you guys, or excuse me, from somebody else we talked to this week, where basically in China, for example, right, over the last 30 to 40 years, you were able to really accrue wealth if you invested in real estate, or if you were really good at making various kind of quote unquote widgets, as we'll call them, right, various products. If you didn't do that, you kind of weren't necessarily in that upper class, as it sounded. Now, to your point, everyone has a smartphone, right? Cryptocurrency, as volatile as it is, and as much as a wealth generator for many as it has been, those prerequisites are there. The knowledge is there. It's a highly educated, culture, where cryptocurrency just fits in easily.
Got it. Yeah, that's pretty big. So here's one of the things I want to get from you guys, is that it seems like our generation has got it, but why hasn't our parents' generation and the one after that? Because you could make that argument, right? That at least our anybody from 15 to 35 to 40 could understand this and become part of the ecosystem fairly easily. But why is it that China has 15 to 65?
I would say it has to do with it has to do with, in the U.S. or in other countries, there's not a massive need to go that far on smartphones, right? So, the best products or the best services that come out and are successful are ones that, if you take it away, there are serious pain points for people, right? Before you get to that point, there has to be some sort of need for it, right? It has to present some sort of convenience or value that whatever the reward is going to warrant the time it takes to educate yourself on how to accept payments on this smartphone or whatnot. So if you don't have the need, it's hard to get to the point where then it becomes a problem if you take it away.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, we had a couple more things to get to. We did meet Kobo Wallet. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about as far as
and Liobi.
Yeah, we
me and Zach Lee saw Liobi at the Bitcoin event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How are they?
Oh, they're great, man.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Great. What are they up to now?
I think a handful of them got in yesterday. On Wednesday, I know they're a lot of them are focusing on dApps. Yep. That's a big focus for them, and it was good to see those guys. Cool. I mean, we've obviously worked with them before at ICO Alert, so was cool to catch up on a nice little balcony kind of patio there.
NYC.
NYC.
Is Zach with them? Is Gall with them?
Yeah, I saw Gall last
Really?
night. Gall,
Nice,
Ev,
man.
Pete,
Dang.
yeah, all those guys.
That's
So,
awesome.
Josh, yeah.
I need to catch up with Gall in person. We've been hitting up on Telegram, but not in person. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we met Kobo Wallet. They were obviously really nice. I was one of their team members, just going to the proof of stake protocols and validators.
Validators, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that meeting?
Yeah, it was great. I asked her, what she thought about IOST so far, and it was very positive. They're very kind of satisfied with things the way they're going, and overall, I mean, it was just surprising when we start talking to her, without knowing that she was like actually a node on IOST.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying, to know that IOST is attending that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kobo Wallet. Currently sitting at number 14. So out of China, got about 50 million votes. So definitely a strong partner in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So we were at the last thing, Black and Blockchain, on Tuesday night.
Monday.
Night.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, it's flown by. And I think the greatest quote of the weekend was them introducing Arthur Hayes and him and as the greatest wealth generator of our time. You guys really love that. You obviously are big traders, and you haven't traded on BitMEX. I don't know anything about that, but
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was to say we were definitely snickering when they introduced him as
that was an amazing event. Like,
it was cool.
I've really enjoyed. That'll be probably like my second top. I really enjoyed Arthur, the way he laid everything out, kind of give it to you straight without any sugarcoating or whatnot. He talked about I like how he talked about it was IEOs, right?
Yep.
He was talking about how he covered ICOs first, and then kind of went into IEOs, saying, hey, yeah, and here's IEO. We basically changed the name and we do it again. So that presentation was amazing. I had a blast there. And then after all that, we ended up actually getting a second to talk to him in person, which is awesome. Events like that outside of Consensus, where you can actually just have amazing speaker and then have a chance to actually talk to them afterwards, person to person.
Shake his hand, ask for a refund.
Yeah, exactly.
Buybacks.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was. I agree. That event was definitely something special. It was hosted by a meetup called Black and Blockchain, like we said. So it was really focused on African Americans in blockchain, and great showing. Like you said, Dimitri, I think a lot of people can take lessons from Arthur on how he presents. And I mean, right now it's hard to compare other people that have been as at least successful and probably influential in crypto. He said that last year BitMEX did over $1 trillion in volume back and forth.
Yep.
And we're obviously growing very quickly. So it was interesting.
I like what he said about what will continue to drive this market. In his opinion, he said that retail will still continue to drive this market, and institutional players are not going to get in anytime soon. That was very interesting from his perspective. And as we all love predictions, he did say he predicts a 10K BTC by the end of the year.
Yep. Yeah. Shortly after he made all his disclaimers and this is not investment advice, kind of liability stuff. Yeah. And it's an interesting point, because I think a lot of people point to the quote unquote institutional investors coming in and being the reason for this pump back up to around 8K. I guess his thought, to break it down, is that because cryptocurrency is in a lot of ways the opposite of the current banking system, that it really applies more and more to retail than it does your institutional folks, right? One question that we asked was, does Arthur see any issue with the speculation in crypto inherently hurting various tokens, or say the overall growth of cryptocurrency, adoption of cryptocurrency, right? And his response of course was no, not at all, right? His reason being that speculation is what brings people to the space, right? That's in a lot of ways what keeps it exciting. He said if Bitcoin was just one all day, constantly one, right, there wouldn't be anyone building on it, or there wouldn't be anyone kind of working towards its adoption globally. So it's we'll see if it stays a retail thing. I think it'll stay a retail thing. I think institutional money and folks in that arena coming in will only help the space and push this pump forward. But I think he's right. It is at the end of the day retail focused.
All right, so the last bit of news here is on the DApp front. So we have Block Game Studios, which is a game developer studio, obviously. They're developing 2 games to be released in late May and early June here. This is going to be IOST Legend and Expedition 2. So I'll read directly from the partnership announcement here. It says, today IOST is excited to announce the partnership with Block Game, bringing 2 blockchain mobile games, IOST Legend and Expedition 2, to our community members. IOST will launch in late May, and Expedition 2 will launch in early June. So this is a pretty big development. Mobile games are something a lot of game developer studios, regardless of if they're blockchain based or not, is something game developer studios are attacking. I think most of the world, especially in China, China, Korea, Japan, they're very mobile based. They're easily accessed. So I think what you'll see from dApps on IOST is that most are going to be mobile based, as opposed to desktop games and things like that. So the IOST Legend, it looks like a Diablo-esque kind of RPG here. What do you think about it?
Yeah, for those gamers out there, it kind of looks like Diablo from the screenshots that they have on here, which is pretty cool actually. Compared to maybe other dApps that don't look so good. That's a good way to appeal to the audience. That have played before, let's say, those type of games like Diablo.
Mike does not have the actual pictures in front of him, nor has he played Diablo, so he is very informed on what we're talking about here.
I was more of an Age of Empires guy myself.
Age of Empires.
That's a good game.
That's a good one. That's a good one. It looks like the second one, Expedition 2, and I'll put up the screenshots on the video as well. It looks like the second one is another kind of 3D MMORPG style game. So I think these are going to be, obviously, they have a huge use case on blockchain, so I'm excited to get involved with RPGs on the blockchain, and as a dApp focused blockchain network, IOST,
right.
The more dApps that come into the network, the more we come to New York, and people will start to know what the hell's going on with what we're doing in this ecosystem. So I'm excited for that. I'm just ready,
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people realize that application layer projects, dApps, right, whether they be in gaming or otherwise, are really kind of the next steps when it comes to bringing people into crypto. So yeah, it's I think we're all definitely ready. It's good to see some cool looking stuff come through on IOST.
Non-gambling dApps.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah, and we talked to the team recently, and they've basically said that there's the pipeline is pretty thick for dApps. So didn't mention any specific names or anything like that on dApps, but we have heard from them basically that non-gaming, non-gambling is on the way. So that's good to hear from them for sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing from an investor standpoint and from kind of a user within IOSC standpoint is understanding what's going to be popular with the Asian community, because that is a huge disconnect between what we would play and what an Asian community would be interested in as far as mobile games. Because I don't know how much you're into mobile games. I'm really not big into mobile games.
Yeah, not particularly.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Other than the game that I play with myself, where I just check my Blockfolio app over and over again, but those aren't that fun usually.
They should incentivize you to check your Blockfolio.
Oh my god, I'd be rich.
Nice. So we'll move on to the next announcement. That's going to be our last piece of news for the day. It is the IOST and Singapore partnership.
Yeah. So this seemed to kind of come and go, slip through the cracks a little bit. At least in our kind of circles here. I don't think it's really getting enough press. Looking at it, reading it here on the blog post, the IOST Foundation is excited to announce a strategic partnership with Enterprise Singapore, alongside regional blockchain incubator Hashed Venture Labs, to support the growth of blockchain startups and grow the blockchain ecosystem in Singapore. In addition, IOST aims to work with Enterprise Singapore to drive enterprise blockchain adoption and help Singapore unlock the transformational value of distributed ledger technology. So that's the first paragraph in the blog post. Take a look at it. There's a lot of meat to this. A lot of big things that IOST can do with Enterprise Singapore. So for example, They talk a little bit, obviously, about Singapore, right? For those who don't know, Singapore has really turned into a tech hub. They're very, very friendly to cryptocurrency and other emerging technologies. So a lot of folks in Asia tend to lean on Singapore when it comes to funding or location of their businesses, right?
Almost like Malta-esque.
Yeah, but I would say even on a bigger scale,
Got
right?
it.
Just because of the location and the previous relationship with China and other countries out that way. So, one thing that they did mention here was that to basically support the growth of Singapore as being a hub for blockchain. The company that IOST is partnered with, called Enterprise Singapore, will provide startup grants worth 30,000 SGD, or Singapore dollar essentially, to any founders launching really novel blockchain solutions. There are also overseas expansion grants of 20,000 SGD. And if there are larger ventures that come through, they will invest through their venture capital arm, Seeds Capital, up to 4 million SGD, right? So this is essentially, if you break it down and look at it, IOST partnering with what seems to be a large organization in Singapore, who has already gone out and done some things to bring blockchain adoption and growth to Singapore.
Does it say how Enterprise Singapore is connected to the Singapore government?
I haven't seen it. It looks like, really through the growth of blockchain projects in Singapore, right? So generally, like, the way that it will work is there will be a third party organization that works with the government to help the government basically fund innovation, so that the government doesn't fall behind to other countries who are taking a real proactive approach with blockchain. So the government isn't gonna kind of like go and directly do it themselves. They got a lot going on, but they're gonna put people in charge that they trust to build that and bring that increased GDP basically.
And just for reference, one Singapore dollar is 73 cents of US dollar. So that's
perfect.
Still pretty big amount.
Yeah, definitely.
From what you mentioned.
For sure, yeah. So like $3 million max
Exactly.
there. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll loop back here in a few months, kind of see where that's see where that has gone and where it might be headed.
All right, so that about wraps up episode 9 here from New York City. We have a couple events to get to tonight, so we're looking forward to that. But we are leaving tomorrow morning around 8 or 9 a.m., so we're looking to have this podcast out today or tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Do you guys have anything before we sign off here?
I would just say, big thanks to the community, everybody who's voted for us. We're sitting at about number 18 with 40 million votes, so keep them coming. We need more. Those votes are what allow us to, come to New York City, right? Put IOST in front of various venture firms or funds, spread the word about it, bring on the additional resources and third parties that we want to here in the U.S. and in North America. So, we're not just kind of sitting back, eating bonbons or whatever with all our token rewards. We're out here, we're pushing IOST to some really important people in the U.S. and North America.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the feedback that we're getting. There was a lot of feedback about, not being able to hear me. So I got a new mic now. So hopefully you guys can hear me, my voice. And, guys, keep providing feedback. We constantly want to improve and cater information to you guys, And
he's got his third mic. We're never going to be able to shut him up. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to finish our last night here in New York City. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.